This is important because I go to my house and there's more than money there. I find food in the pantry and laundry in the bin, and I find papers to be read and homework for my son to be done and bills to be paid and books to be read. And in the middle of this, I'm living my life. And it occurs to me that the law of my house is not completely dominated by what I'm writing out checks for or what I'm earning to write those checks with. My life is bigger than that. So let's generalize this to our local economy, which is about business, sure, and about jobs, but it's also about people without jobs. It's about people who don't have jobs and won't, like children. It's about people who don't have jobs and won't because they are retired. It's about health care, which if you don't get it, doesn't allow you to go to work very well. It's about land. How much land do we need to put a factory? Do we really need to put a factory there? It's about the water that needs to flow through the factory and how dirty it's going to get in the process. It's about all the air that you have to fill with stuff like exhaust if the trucks are going to the factory. You see what I mean? The economy is larger than the actual transaction of jobs and businesses. It's about land, it's about water, it's about people, it's about culture, as Dave told us about our history. I'm working without my notes in front of me. I should probably refer to them from time to make sure I don't go too long. My point is that the way we talk about the economy and culture is simplistic. We think of it as being this when it is all of this. And that's why this is an issue for me and I think for us. When we only get simplistic renderings, we get simplistic answers. Reduce taxes. Raise the minimum wage, which cannot change everything because the economy is so complicated. The principle that I see at stake here is one that sounds simple like the word economy but isn't. The word is diversity. Oh yeah, that's a diversity stake over there. You're talking about human diversity. I said, no, that's not what I mean. Let's start with what my financial advisor tells me. I don't have an official financial advisor. I just read those ones in the paper. First rule of cheap financial advice is diversification. Don't put it all in stocks. Don't put it all in bonds. Don't put it all here. Spread it out. Why? So if there's a tank in the housing market, you won't lose everything. If there's a bump in the stock market, you won't fall off a cliff. Anybody had that experience in the last few days? So, if diversification is good in my personal economy, why is it not good in my city economy? And I'm saying this because I keep hearing about people saying the manufacturing sector is falling apart. We need to find new manufacturers. I said, yeah, and we were dependent on it for 100 years, and when it finally tanked, the whole city was at risk. Diversification says we need manufacturing and healthcare and what it takes to get there. For example, in this city we have a growing arts community. Well, that's nice, and we go to the art museum maybe, but right now the art museum is using construction, isn't it? That's part of the economy. If you go up and down the street, you can see people doing artwork all the time. Well, that doesn't contribute. Yes, it does. It is part of the economy. So encouraging an arts economy is good for us all because it diversifies. But you see, who becomes an artist in this town? Not someone who looks like me. Not a straight white Anglo-Saxon male. More often than not, it's someone female, someone of color, someone less wealthy, often someone not straight. In other words, to increase our arts economy means we have to diversify our human economy as well. What about education? I talked about education last week. Well, it's part of the economy as well as part of the future. Colleges, private schools, universities, as you well know, enrich the entire community. The more of that we have, the better off our overall economy is, right? Brings a lot of enrichment to it. They bring a different kind of person in, often a transient. Let's think about the way other people enrich our economy. Minorities, that's a convenient way to say non-white people. They bring a different culture, often a different way of doing business. They stabilize neighborhoods by becoming connected to each other. There's a wonderful book that I was given at Christmas time, The Old Neighborhoods of Grand Rapids. They don't exist much anymore, and yet they were very much part of making this city prosperous in its time. The Greek neighborhood, the Jewish neighborhood, the black neighborhood, the Italian neighborhood, the Spanish neighborhood. Where did they go? They're gone. And the economy is the poor. My point here is that if we're going to talk about the economy, someone has to be reminding both sides that it's not all about jobs or all about business. Because when we do that, we get into an awful predicament of thinking, I need what that person has. Isn't that what we do in this state? Well, if we grant tax abatements to this business, they'll come here and not go there. If we provide better regulation here, they won't go to that place, they'll stay here. If we eliminate the single business tax, they won't leave the state and go down to Kentucky. If we don't pay people more money, they won't go to India instead. You know what I'm talking about? It is a notion of scarcity. There's only so much to go around, and we have to scrape for it, compete for it. We have to be better than the other guy, or they will get it and we won't. And I want to say that in the end, there's really only one economy, and that's the whole bloody planet, isn't it? So when we talk about competing, what we're in essence saying is, I really think that, I should take care of my left hand. So I think I'll neglect my right foot to make sure that my left hand does really, really well. You know how foolish that is. Well, the point for us is that as liberals and religious liberals, we understand that diversification and diversity is healthy for the whole. We know this religiously. Let me find the little notes I made. We know that the Bible is a great book. I taught about it this spring. But, no matter where you look in the Bible, it will not fix your computer. Just won't happen. I looked, it isn't there. Christianity is a great religion. It's got a lot to offer, but I wouldn't go to it for medical advice. Just not going to happen. Religious liberals know that every source of good is not a complete source of good. You have to get more. You have to go get other kinds of information. Diversify your inspiration, as it were. So we translate that into the long term as well. Now, let's translate that into the long term. You live in a house. Remember, oikos nomos? We all live in the same house. Would we fix every household problem we had with a hammer? No, we need a screwdriver, a couple of wrenches, a crosscut saw, a miter box, a few other things. Our tools for change have to be more than one. Anyone who's telling you that the solution to all our economic problems is to reduce taxes is saying that all the repairs that I need to do in my house can be fixed with a hammer. Or as someone said, if all you have is a hammer, everything you look at seems to be a nail. Likewise, how healthy will we be as a society if all we eat is ice cream? That's what happens when you depend on one industry, be it manufacturing or automobiles. We need to be nourished by all the ways we do business. We need to have all the tools to fix things so that we can do them right. And we can do this because we have advantages as a church. We know that diversification and diversity is a strength and not a weakness. That's the first thing we know. We are not in competition with any other religion. Go, prosper, have a great time. You too. We want you all to do well. I don't need to do well at your expense. And we also know, and this is really the key part, that the fundamental problem with scarcity thinking and hammer thinking is this idea that there's not enough for everyone. And yet there is. There really is enough for everyone to do well. Not just everyone in this church or everyone in Grand Rapids or Michigan, in the planet. The words I'm looking to go for here are sustainable development. That's a big, juicy, messy phrase that can mean a lot of things. But the essence of it is somehow it's possible to do well and do good. To prosper economically and not kill all the animals. To prosper economically and not eliminate all the old houses. It's possible to prosper without someone else having to be poor. We're pretty bright creatures. We can figure this out, but only if we try to assume that we should figure it out.